It's been an absolute pleasure to have the three of you joining us here today. Before I get into the wallet wars, big congratulations to Peter Elbers and Indigo. They've started flying business this morning. Today's your first flight, Peter?
Today morning itself, yeah. We started today after 18 years. Indigo is moving into a new space. And today we started the business class flights between Delhi and Mumbai. We're very excited, obviously.
I would imagine. So that brings me to my very first question. Let me start by asking you, obviously the decision after 18 years for Indigo to bring in a business class, which is something that you absolutely said no to as long as you've existed. That tells you about, A, the change in consumption, the change in customer preferences, and of course, the vacuum in the Indian aviation market as well. So using that as the peg, lay out for me, Peter, the consumption thesis that you're betting on.
Well, thank you, Shireen. You're absolutely touching upon all these points which are really there. I mean, Indigo moved in a time span of just 18 years from its inception to 100 million customers a year. But in these 18 years, India has changed enormously, and India will continue to change. And listening to some of the previous speakers, I think that's all out there. And today we fly 20 a day, or actually 40 sectors a day between Delhi and Mumbai, over 30 a day between Delhi and Bangalore. That changing India, and that entrepreneurial India, and that aspirational India, really, I think deserves a product and is waiting for a product which is cost competitive, but yet serving the aspirational needs. So the timing is actually right now and right here.
Well, speaking of the timing being right now and right here, I want to take a leaf out of what Mr. Kotak said, taking Indian brands global. And Indigo is attempting to do that. You're, of course, flying international, and you hope to fly more and more international. And I know the aspiration is to take Indigo as a local Indian brand and make it a global aviation player.
Yeah, with a lot of pleasure. I've been just listening to Mr. Kotak here, and I think all the points he was making are absolutely very valid for aviation. I mean, Indigo is the 7th largest airline in the world when it comes to daily departures. India is not the 7th largest airline in the world when it comes to brand awareness or when it comes to global presence. So our Indian bases and foundations really are a great foundation to move more international. And I guess for way too long, Indian aviation has been outsourced, if you wish, to places outside India. And I think with our plans and our ambition, we start to grow enormously. Today we do a little over 30 international destinations. By the end of the year, 40. We have new planes coming in pretty much one every week. And from there we'll expand our wings and giving wings to the nation to go actually to all these corners of the world.
Well, giving wings to the nation, that's the aspiration that Indigo is working with. Rohit Java, let me come to you. SE pointed out, and I think that was a fabulous headline, that Hindustan Unilever is the heartbeat of Unilever. So, you know, take me through what is responsible for HUL becoming the heartbeat of Unilever, and what does your heart beat for here as far as the Indian wallet wars are concerned?
Yeah, look, we've been here for 90 years, and the mission with which this company was born and led right from early days by Indian leaders is what's good for India is good for HUL. And recently when our global CEO, Heinz Schumacher, was here, what's good for India is good for HUL, is good for Unilever. Because basically now we are almost 13–14% of Unilever globally. We are a hub of not just a scale of business and opportunity with huge headspace, as we've spoken about the India story, but importantly we're also a hub of talent, R&D, science and technology, and innovation. So India counts a lot, including the fact that many of our leaders have also led Unilever globally. So it's a truly
the heartbeat.
The heartbeat of Unilever.
You know, Rohit, let me build on that, because you said that it is a significant contributor to Unilever, 13–14% being driven here from India. As he also talked about the 2030 vision that you have, what do you believe you can potentially do in the next 5 to 7 years? I mean, what could that number be over the next 5 to 7 years on the back of the trends that you're betting on in India and the per capita consumption expectation that's expected to move up?
Yeah, look, when we look at we look back 10 years and look forward 10 years and look at neighboring markets, and I've said this before, the per capita consumption of markets like Indonesia, more like 4 times of where we are in India today, by and large, across categories. You could have the same story with Thailand, India, China. So when you compare these markets, you clearly see that there's a massive unlock that's bound to happen across categories. And because India is not one, and India is a segment of many different income stratas, you already see the categories taking off. And given the scale, we're talking a big business. So the most important thesis in a growing nation with growing prosperity and aspiration is to offer products that help people upgrade their quality of life at a price and value that suits the Indian pocket. And I think no other company can do that better than HUL, because we are in every corner of this country. We have the ability to reach our products at a very, very good cost, and we have lifeblood of innovation R&D deeply seeped in the culture of the company from 60s. And in that sense, I really admire what Indigo has done. It really shows an example of a world-class product at what is absolutely Indianized and a really, really good price and value equation. And that's really how we see us breaking through the opportunity in the next 5 to 10 years.
You talked about breaking through the opportunity in the next 5 to 10 years. Let me ask you a more immediate term or a near-term question. And there are questions at this point in time on what's happening as far as demand is concerned. What's happening with consumer spend? Why are we seeing this pain play out for FMCG companies across the board when we talk about volume growth? There are many arguments being presented. One also is that the preference of consumers is shifting away from the traditional FMCG products to perhaps non-traditional or more on the healthier side and so on and so forth. I mean, how do you read what's happening with demand today?
The first and the important thing, just to react to that, because it's not the first time I'm thinking or being asked that question.
No, I would imagine not.
So, is to really cut the noise out.
Yeah.
Because noise comes in form of short-term signals. It comes in the form of trends and fads and so on and so forth. The macro picture of the consumption story, especially in consumer goods, is that a massive market where every consumer wants to now aspire to better quality of life because of the fact that they can see what great looks like on their hand phone, on their mobile phone. It's accessible to everyone in this country. So the dreams have been unshackled.
Yeah.
People want to improve their quality of life. All of the trends that we've seen happening in other markets that have gone through this arc of development are happening here as well, whether it's urbanization, digitization through the India tech stack, the upgradation. So give or take a few quarters here or there, and we had rural discussed a year back in a similar forum, and now rural is coming back. We're discussing urban today. So we should just stay the course and remember to do 2 or 3 things.
Yeah.
Number one, focus on becoming better every day.
Yeah.
So be superior, offer our consumers the best solution. So focus on market share. Number 2, increase the quality of our brands, make sure that they are the most unmissable, and keep investing in market development. Because this market is about development of categories and growth, so therefore we must stay on strategy, come what may in whichever market conditions. So that's what I'm telling myself and everyone in the company. Keep calm, carry on, and keep developing the market, investing for the future.
I think that's a great message. Keep calm and carry on, says Rohit Java, and I think that's a message that the market may also pick up on. Santosh, let me come to you. I think the number one question that everybody was asking as they walked into the CNBC TV18 Global Leadership Summit is how much is that Maybach for?
Wow, that's around 3.8 crores. That's just one car.
How many orders have been placed already?
You have to wait for 6 to 7 months to get that car.
6 to 7 months. That's the kind of waiting period that there is.
Yeah, that's true.
But Santosh, you've had a record year in India, and I think it's played out that way as far as the luxury segment is concerned. I mean, people can't have enough of bags or enough of luxury cars. Over the next 5 to 10 years, the significance, the importance of India and the Indian consumer for a brand like Mercedes-Benz.
So let me put things in perspective. Today morning we heard that a country is treated as a developed country once it reaches $14,000 per capita. We are at 3,000 odd. But when you look at luxury cars, what has changed in India is not the absolute number of cars, but 3 years back, the average selling price used to be around $60,000 for us. And today, that's around $100,000. It's already as good as any developed market in the world. So I think that's a significant shift in premiumization. The very fact that we have cars costing 4 crores plus being sold and being weighted, I think that's a fundamental structural shift we are seeing apart from the volume growth. For sure, there is a double-digit volume growth that we see. To answer to the next part, I think we are in the cusp of transformation. And today morning when I heard the Honorable Minister also talking about electrification, On one side, we have the green energy transition. On the other side, there is expectation for automotive industry to also transform. I think the next couple of years for luxury players like us will be how soon we can accelerate this, because we have this clear window. India was very strong on combustion engines, very low cost cars, but that also closed our borders. What Mr. Uday Kotak said, none of the brands are able to export because these are cars for India, only for India, made for India. But it's time now with electrification coming, change in transformation. We also as a company, we want to change the game. We want to also ensure that cars from India can go out.
So how do you change the game?
First, from the policy side, I heard a couple of references to free trade today. I think that's a starting point. You cannot have closed borders. Unfortunately, what I hear since morning is it's going to get more and more closed considering the geopolitical situation. But for India to develop, I think we need to still strike those deals, so-called, to get the borders open and compete globally. That would, automotive industry is 7% of manufacturing GDP. Every vehicle sold creates 14 jobs. So if you just extrapolate this curve of 7-8% growth, the employment requirement, generation requirement can be largely also met with one industry by itself. But then the aspirations has to be global. It can't be just made for India. It's great, it's work, but made for India, for the world, I think. And with that, you need FTAs and also a lot of innovation development to happen in India.
So how much is Make in India for the world happening for you? What is the aspiration? Of course, with the caveat that all of this stuff that you just spoke of on the policy front falls into place.
See, for us as Mercedes-Benz, we have one is our plant and factories, etc. But we also have 10,000 people working in Bangalore. You'll be surprised, we have more than 500 patents filed out of India on the technology side. And proudly we say that every Mercedes in the world has an India in it. So already we are really getting there. But it's mostly tech, software. It's time engineering also comes up.
Yeah.
But it's again, the story, what comes first. Is there a local market? When you look at 20,000 odd cars, it's not great. Or 50, 60,000 luxury cars. But on the other side, I think with the average selling price going up, market maturing, it should push us and many other players to further look at India much more in a significant fashion.